Welcome to About Time, a Doctor Who podcast. I'm Stephen, and I've been a Doctor Who fan since 2005, and usually I'm joined on the podcast by my boyfriend, Ben. Today, however, I'm joined by a special guest, Nick, to discuss the first of the Doctor Who 60th anniversary specials, The Star Beast. And quite frankly, it's about time. Hello.
Hey there, how's it going?
Really good, thank you. So, welcome, Nick. Welcome to the podcast.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. So, just so listeners know, how do we know each other?
We know each other through Doctor Who.
Basically, yeah. We were, 15, 16, and we were both on the Doctor Who forums.
Yes, and I had an awareness of you because I know that you'd done fan videos and you had a username at the time. Am I allowed to share it?
I can't remember what it was. You can say it.
Socks of Balhoon.
Was it? Oh my God, yeah.
And I remember I saw you and I said, "Hi, Socks of Balhoon."
Oh my God. And we started chatting on there, didn't we? Like, just about Doctor Who and being a young fan at the time.
And that's it. And that friendship spans the 15 years that has brought us to here.
Yeah. I think it's safe to say that the Series 4, like the Dr. Donna team was kind of the peak for us as well of like our obsession with the show.
Absolutely. And you know, I was enamored with David Tennant's portrayal of the Doctor. Like, he was a big role model for me at the time when I was 16. And I know you and I, we had a shared love for Murray Gold's music. And
yeah, definitely.
The interesting thing is that at that point, that was when we knew that actually David Tennant would soon be leaving.
Yes. Yeah. It was quite a time, wasn't it?
It was. And did you ever think that we'd get to a point where this particular storyline with the Doctor and Donna would ever be revisited?
Oh, absolutely not. No.
No, not here.
No, it's so bizarre, isn't it? I still remember, like, how long ago was it? A year, 2 years, something like that they announced that they were coming back.
Yeah.
And when I saw it, I just thought, it's a joke. Someone's like having a joke.
Yeah. The old style of storytelling with Doctor Who, which I think we're going to start seeing an expansion from, everything was quite linear. So the Doctor had a companion, and in the Russell era, the companion would leave, and that was the door closed on them mostly. And I know Martha came back, and so did Rose. But with Donna, it looked like the door was firmly shut. Yeah.
Well, it turns out it was left ajar.
Yes. I mean, even her last appearance on the End of Time Part 2, they didn't actually see each other.
Yeah, it's really interesting actually watching the Star Beast with also having that in mind, how we last saw them like on screen.
And I think the episode did a really beautiful thing by just getting straight to the point. Within the first few minutes, there's Donna carrying boxes, and the 14th Doctor sees her.
Yeah.
Didn't waste any time.
No, I mean that's what you want, really, isn't it?
That's right, just got straight into it.
The first thing that I made a note about was the opening narration.
Yes.
What were your thoughts on that?
It was different.
Very different.
Very different from what we're used to. It was a good opportunity for anybody who hadn't watched the episodes prior just to kind of get into it. Very dramatic.
It seems to me like the sort of thing that maybe it was never originally intended to be in it, and then Disney were like, you better add this in, like, for people who haven't seen it before or whatever.
Yes, it's funny actually you say that, because I know that when I went to visit America a few times, when they would show reruns of 11 and Amy, it would be Karen Gillan doing a
I remember
a narration
that.
about
I ran away with a man in a blue box or whatever.
That's right. It might be quite an American thing.
Possibly. But also I think it was good for casual viewers who were maybe watching it at its peak in that era and then have sort of dropped off since then. And they might think back and think, I loved it when David Tennant and Catherine Tate were in it, but they don't remember the ins and outs of the story. So it's a nice refresher. Yeah.
That's right.
But I just can't understand why they decided to have David Tennant standing against a green screen with like a nebula behind him. It was just so bizarre. But
I know what you mean. And there's Donna in her kitchen on her laptop.
Yeah.
Probably blogging. I don't know what she's doing.
And we got a new theme tune and title sequence.
What do you think?
Did you love it?
Yes. I think so, yes. I think it's quite a departure from what we had in the Moffat era towards the end with a face in it, and we're going full on time vortex. And I actually enjoy the shot of the TARDIS kind of scraping against it. I know,
I love
satisfying.
It. It's like surfing, like a surfboard, isn't it?
It reminds me of scooping out a pumpkin.
Oh, okay.
And I love the theme because it's lovely to have Murray Gold back too.
Yeah, I do like the theme. The more I've heard it, the more it's grown on me. But I do think, I still think it's a little bit like everything but the kitchen sink has been thrown into it, you know? But I guess it's 60th anniversary, like they want to go big with it.
That's right.
But I was a big fan of what they did, what Sega Nakanola did in the Jodie era with the theme tune. Right. I think that was a really great like use of the original, but kind of making it really sort of rock your ears off as well, you know, like it was really good.
I know what you mean. I did actually, what I did used to like about that particular intro and theme was the way that you could see the sort of time vortex pulsing.
I love that.
You could hear it in the music, and that's quite sensory.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
And it did use the more sort of radiophonic sound of the theme, which would probably be more appropriate when going back to the show's 60-year history.
Yeah, but I guess at the end of the day, the theme's got to reflect what the content of the episodes is like in a way. It's like it's got to suit the show as it is at the moment, and
that's right.
I think that the new theme does suit sort of Russell's style and having Tennant back and everything. Yeah, it's cool. So what did we think of the moment when the Doctor and Donna first sort of came across each other again?
I was actually initially quite underwhelmed.
Okay.
Only just because of how quick it was. And I know that I said that was a good thing. That's in retrospect. At the time, watching it, I guess there was a lack of the sort of tension, which we're used to when watching stories like Partners in Crime, where you see them on like two sides of the same street and not noticing each other.
Yes.
Although I guess...
Yeah, I guess you could say that's been done then. If they did that in Partners in Crime, like they wouldn't necessarily want to repeat that.
That's true. But, and like I said on the rewatch, I could see that Russell wasn't wasting any time with that. Yeah. The whole thing's very fast paced, and I think you there's a lot to fit into an hour. So that's right.
Yeah,
that's it. You're launching a whole new era and celebrating the show at the same time.
Yeah. I do like it. I like the fact that he sees this person struggling with this pile of boxes and he goes like, oh, hang on, let me go and help. As if like, if this wasn't Don, if this was some other random person, this could have been some new companion or something for him. You know, true. It could be how he meets someone. But then he takes that box off the top and he sees that face and he's just like, no, puts the box back and walks off. It's like when you're in public and you see someone that you kind of don't want to like engage with. Like, just walk away. Yeah.
Oh, I know that. Or they're on the same bus as you. That one. Yeah. I know that one well.
And then when she's calling for Rose, and he's like, what? And the third time she says it, she like looks right in his face and goes, Rose. I just love every minute of her performance.
Catherine Tate.
Yeah, I always do.
I think they're better than ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been with my partner. I basically gave her a crash course in the in that particular storyline, the Dr. Donna storyline, by watching Turn Left, The Stolen Earth, and Journey's End, and that's actually quite a good way to get someone up to speed with that whole storyline. Because Turn Left gives you the whole of Donna's story in one episode. Yeah, and it's quite interesting because I would say, we've both said this when watching it together, because she got involved in the excitement with me, my partner Janine, mother to my children. That's how far we've come along in 15 years, Stephen.
I know, crazy, we're getting old. We've said it. We've said that they're both better. They're both. Yeah. They've both come far as actors. They are incredible performers. Is that an ice cream
van? The 8 p.m. ice cream van. I don't know why. I don't know why there's an ice cream at 8 p.m. and most kids are in bed around this time.
Well, there you go. So speaking of Rose, then, what do you think of the character of Rose Noble?
Amazing character.
Yeah.
It encapsulates Russell T Davies' strengths, and one of the reasons why it's so good to have him back, his richness with characters and how he can explore those different themes through them.
Yeah, I think it's very important, I think, that we see representation of all sorts of different types of people and minorities on our screens. And I think Russell was conscious of that. I mean, he's always been conscious of that in all his work.
Yes.
But I'm thinking back to his first era of Doctor Who, and he brought us Captain Jack.
That's right.
Which was the show's first like bisexual or pansexual character.
That's right.
And I was thinking back because, I mean, we may talk about this a little bit. I don't want to talk about it too much because I feel like with us being two cis men, we're not the best people to have this conversation. But there's been quite a lot of discussion and criticism about the way that Rose's transness was portrayed in the episode online. And I was thinking back to, you know, him bringing in Captain Jack in series 1, and like that was a great thing to show us that character. But you could say that was quite clumsily handled in the fact that we get our first bisexual character and he's like a sex mad pest, you know.
Well, that's it. And that's something that, you know, with the expanse of time,
exactly
what might have been deemed acceptable at that point. And I've done a lot of reading on this because Captain Jack was a hypersexual character.
Yeah, exactly.
He had no boundaries. He inserted himself into like people's space. You know, Captain Jack Harkness, stop it. And there was a level of perceived at the time acceptability towards that. But when we look at it now, we understand that actually that's not the best message of today, really.
Yeah.
And that's where a character like that has perhaps not aged the best.
Yeah. So I'm wondering about this. Like, I do think Russell's intentions with Rose were brilliant. We'll talk at the end because I put out a question on our Instagram and Twitter for listeners to let me know what they thought of the episode. And I've had some trans people speak to me. I've had very different views from different people. So it could be said that there's not necessarily any right or wrong way to do these things. It's it's all up for discussion, really.
I think from what I've read from what Russell has said in retrospect, as well as Yasmin Finney, is that truth was the main part of that. Like the truthfulness of the experience. And we see that with the way that other characters interact with that, like Sylvia in the kitchen.
Yes, I love that. I love that scene.
That's right.
It's so real, isn't it? Like Sylvia being of that generation, where it's a bit alien to her.
Yes.
But she's really trying her best. And I love the fact that she turns to Donna for advice.
That's right.
It shows you how far they've come in their relationship. You know, I do think the Doctor's words to Sylvia about maybe you should tell her that once in a while. Maybe they've had some resonance.
Yeah, I think there's a definite difference.
And now that Sylvia knows that Donna is so vulnerable that she could die if she remembers the Doctor, I think she's got that extra sort of worry about her and care for her.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean, it's just the writing in terms of Russell T Davies. Like, it's so good to have him back because he's just always hit the nail on the head with writing characters and family dynamics and stuff.
That's right. He gets to the heart of things.
It just feels so real, you know? And I was very happy on Saturday night when
me too.
watching it. It was like reliving childhood, wasn't it? It was like going back.
I've found it therapeutic, obviously. Yeah. I feel like I've had something I feel like Donna in this instance.
Oh my God, yeah.
I feel like there's been something missing for the past 15 years, and then there it is.
Yeah. I feel like I had something lovely. We get to see more of Sean, Donna's husband, in this episode, which I know he was in the End of Time, but I feel like I can't even remember if he had any lines in it, or he may have had one or two.
I'm trying to remember one, actually. Wasn't it?
There's a memory of when Donna wakes up in the second part and he's crouching by the sofa. I feel like he might say something. But
she got hypothermia.
Yeah, well, that's it, yeah. But he was very sort of background in that story. Yes. But it's amazing that they honoured that casting and they brought back the same actor.
Yeah.
And he was brilliant.
For him.
Yeah, I loved his role in this. He as the taxi driver, like, and the sort of like the dad figure of like, oh, how lucky am I? 2 best girls in the world and all that. It was so
Absolutely.
Sweet.
Dad time, what's for tea?
Oh, yeah. Tuna Madras. Which sounds disgusting.
Yeah, I read about that in Doctor Who magazine.
Yeah, isn't it a staple in Russell's household or something?
Yeah, he loves it.
Yeah, it sounds disgusting to me. One question I had about Sean was, do you think he knows? Do you think Sylvia has filled him in on the meta crisis?
So.
Yeah.
That's why he wasn't freaking out when he saw Beep the Meep.
Okay.
I thought about this too. I thought, well, hold on, wasn't Sean sort of in that like ignorant kind of bubble of, Donna lives a very ordinary life and he lives an ordinary life with her. And then I think of that scene and the way he just kind of walks in and has that look on his face. I have a feeling he was likely filled in.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because he might have had to be really careful, like them not to watch E.T. or something.
Oh, yeah, you're right. And I guess if he hadn't known, it would have been more to deal with in the episode of him, like, finding out as well. Like, it just makes it easier if he's been told off screen.
That's right.
Yeah. I also love the fact that Donna gave away all her money.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It was so sweet. Like, and that, that the moment, like, when she says, it just seemed like the sort of thing he'd do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's like the doctor, she may have lost everything, but the doctor still impacted her life and still influenced her life in some way.
Well, that's it. And when I was rewatching The End of Time, you can actually see that her subconscious does a lot of working. She got Wilfred, the Jeremy Naismith book, because she had a subconscious idea that something was happening.
Yeah.
So her wanting to help others and reach out in the way that she did was a subconscious reaching out from when she was travelling in the TARDIS.
Yeah, and like, it's safe to say that Runaway Bride Donna would never have done that.
No.
So the Doctor has changed her life for the better, even with her losing her memory.
That's right.
Yeah. Did you notice the Susie Mare reference?
Susie Mare? Could you refresh that for me, please?
So Sylvia mentions, I bumped into Susie Mare the other day, and they have a little conversation about that. But that was someone who was mentioned in the final scene of Journey's End when Donna's on the phone. Susie Mare went on this dating site, right? It's like, Susie Mare wouldn't lie, not unless it's about calories. So I love that, and apparently that's the real person that Russell knows, and he put the name in as a reference, as a joke.
See,
and he's used her again. Yeah.
And Neris, I know Neris.
Oh God.
Who doesn't know Neris?
Yeah, who's had an accident apparently. Poor Neris. I feel like when we saw her in The End of Time, she wasn't actually that bad.
No.
You feel like they are actually friends, her and Donna. They just have a bit
rivalry.
of a... Yeah. You made me wear peach. So I think we need to talk about the star of the show, for me.
Go on.
The Meep.
The Meep. Mm-hmm.
I fucking love the Meep.
You love the Meep?
I do. I know he turned out to be evil, but pre-turning evil, it's just the cutest thing.
Mm-hmm.
The way Miriam Margolyes voiced it. My favourite scene is the one in the shed with Rose and the Meep. Yes. Where she comes in and then the Meep's like, I made some friends. I tried to make some friends. And then she's like, you pulled its tummy out.
That is an amazing impression, by the way. You haven't lost it. You're amazing.
I just love the Meep, and it looks amazing. And have you watched Unleashed?
I have, but I don't think I've watched... Well, I have seen how they did the Meep. Yeah,
because I was thinking, like... I was pretty sure it would have been 90% CGI, but it turns out it's the other way around. It's 90% practical with only a little bit of enhancement of CGI, which is amazing. Like,
I'm so glad they do that now.
Yeah.
They did
it
the
really
same
adds
thing
to the
with
realism.
Baby Yoda. Yeah, Baby Yoda's the same kind of thing. It's a practical puppet, but with a bit of CGI enhancement for blinking eyes and...
Okay. Yeah, that makes
just
sense.
Gives it a bit more realism, doesn't it?
Definitely, yeah. Like I said, I guested on another podcast the other day to talk about this episode, and I was saying that when I was watching Unleashed, I saw the Meep like in frame, and then you can also see the TV cameras while they're filming it. And for a second, I was like, "Why is the Meep there? Why have they CGI'd the Meep into that behind the scenes shot?" Like, because it just looks so real.
Speaking of the Meep. Yeah. Our new cat, which we've called Meep, has come into the room.
Oh, hello, Meep.
He must have known. Hold on. There we go. Here he is. He's probably
listeners won't be able to see this, but yeah, so cute.
Oh, I've got a little kitten on my shoulder right now. There we go.
Called the Meep. Called the
Meep. I will say, I know we're speaking about how the Meep had become evil. I think obviously if you'd already read the Star Beast comic that the story was based on, you'd have known about that.
Yeah.
And of course, it's a very common bait and switch to have a very like cute, wholesome seeming creature turn out to be evil.
Yeah. I do wonder, like, because, I mean, me being involved in the fandom online, like, it was pretty impossible to not hear that what was going to happen in terms of that. But I do wonder, like, for people who had no idea, never heard of the Meep before, like, at what point they were watching it and they thought, oh, actually, maybe there's something dodgy about the Meep.
Well, I remember reading that Russell was actually planning for there to be a bit more sideward dialogue about, like, I'm going to drink your blood, and, you know. But he was told not to, so then there could be a bit more of a dramatic turn. I
quite like the way it was in the end.
That's right. And the thing is, as well, for a generation of children, that is their first example of seeing that things are not as they seem.
Yeah.
You know, us grown-ups, we're used to this kind of thing. This kind of plot device, this kind of cute alien turns out to be malevolent.
Yeah.
And you've got the Roth warriors who are like the monster.
Yeah.
But they're actually well-spoken and using stun guns. And
don't judge a book by its cover.
That's right. Don't judge a book by its cover. And for a generation of children, that's their first experience of that.
Yeah. And when you talk about children, like, and you obviously now are a parent.
Yes.
At what age do you think that it's acceptable for children to watch Doctor Who?
Well, here we go. This is the question I'm actually asking myself now.
Yeah.
Because I know that my 6-year-old, she was very keen to watch it. She got very involved in the excitement with me.
Yeah.
She's got the Meep poster in her room because, you know, it's Disney. And she wanted to watch it, but I made sure I watched it first.
Yeah.
My partner and I, we actually just, when the revelation happened and you see the way that his face just completely changes.
Yeah.
I actually think that was not appropriate for her.
Yeah.
You know, so we've actually thought maybe not in this case.
Yeah, it does depend on the child, and you know, obviously you know your child the best.
She watched other episodes with me, so she watched Partners in Crime, and she loved the adipose.
That's good.
So you can chop and change it.
Yeah, because I think like you hear about people like Russell and Chris Chibnall saying they have early memories of seeing Doctor Who when they were like 3 or 4 years old.
Yes,
and it's like that must be crazy. Like. Yeah, I can't imagine that. It's it's extremely young. I wonder, like, if people are actually traumatized from things they've seen in Doctor Who when they were that young.
That's it, and that was the crux of a lot of Stephen Moffat's writing.
Yeah, so there is a line.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll always be there, like a great gift to share when they're old enough.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think give it some time.
Yeah.
I showed her the clip of when Rose meets the Meep in the shed.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's a cute scene.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that scene so much.
It's also like with some episodes of Series 4, when showing the 6-year-old, there are some I'm probably not going to show her. Like Planet of the Ood, for example.
Yeah.
That one's quite hard-hitting.
Oh, it is, yeah. Oh, yeah, I was thinking about that the other day. The man turning into an Ood at the end is very visceral.
Yeah, it's very body horror, isn't it?
Yeah. Anywho, we like to say that on this podcast. Another new character, Shirley Ann Bingham, Unit's new scientific advisor.
Yes.
She was cool.
I think she's amazing.
Yeah.
I think she's great. I think she's a great character.
Yeah. She's very blasé about the Doctor, which is a nice. I love Osgood very much, actually, but it's a nice, refreshing change after like we had Malcolm in Planet of the Dead and Osgood, like who are very much like fangirling over the Doctor.
That's right.
To have someone who's a bit more like, yeah, you wish.
I think that's good, and that again shows that expanse of time and the change that Russell's made from between his first iteration and this one. There's no salute and don't salute. And
oh yeah, yeah. What's interesting though is that so she sees him, and I think she thinks he's the 10th Doctor.
Yes.
And then he says about, then I regenerated into Bowtie and Scotsman and the woman. Yes. And then this face came back. So, and she thinks that's future knowledge, but then he explains that he's had this face come back. But like, if she knows about those Doctors, why would she not also know that he gets that face back again as well? I don't know. It's a bit confusing.
Unless it's part of the mystery.
Could be. What do you think about this whole his face coming back?
Oh,
It's a big one.
it is a big one. On one hand, we know from the 50th anniversary when Tom Baker returned that it was very much a possibility in the Doctor's future that he'd be able to revisit old favourite faces.
Yeah.
So there's that element that I think. Then we can go into the more sort of fandom, like very abstract ideas, like maybe it's like something that an upcoming villain that Toymaker's done, and it's all a trick, and he's not actually the Doctor, he's a projection, and that's actually Shooty under there. Like, I've heard all kinds of different things.
Yeah. I like to think that each time the Doctor regenerates, there is a sort of psychological or subconscious reason behind the way they turn out as they do. So obviously, we're recording this. We've still only seen the first special. There's 2 to come.
Yes.
By the time this podcast goes out, they'll all have aired. So we may sound like idiots, but
yeah,
it is what it is. I feel like there must be some psychological reason in the Doctor why this face came back. Like with Peter Capaldi, the way, it was to tell him something.
Yeah. Even if it's to get closure for Donna.
Exactly. I think that kind of makes sense. What Donna said about why did this face come back to say goodbye?
That's right.
It kind of makes sense.
Can you see any differences between 10 and 14?
Interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
I can, yes. I think, but I don't think they're huge. The way I see it is that it's the same kind of incarnation of the Doctor, but obviously it comes later in the Doctor's life.
Yes.
The Doctor's been through a lot since he was 10.
Mm-hmm.
And so, there is going to be more character development.
Yeah.
And, he has the experience now of having been Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi, Jodie Whittaker.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see influences from those 3 in him. Like, there's a few bits when his voice almost sounded a bit posh.
Yes.
Like that bit when he was talking to Shirley.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
There was some moments where he went a little bit like, almost sounded a bit like Matt Smith.
Yes, I thought that.
And he's doing a lot of sort of, a lot of sort of joyful, like, when they go into the TARDIS at the end and they're sort of gushing over it. That was very Jodie, I think.
Well, that's it. And I think we can actually see aspects of 13 still in 14.
Definitely.
It's quite interesting. I've been thinking a lot about this. I really love 14. I think 14 is a stark contrast so far from what we've seen to 10, in that 10 was quite ego-driven.
Yeah.
10 was more about, I don't want to go. Why would I want to change? Look at me. He loved being 10. What was quite fascinating in that Shirley scene that we're referring to is just how sort of, what's the word? He didn't seem very attached to the idea that he had that face back.
Yeah.
You'd think if he was so wrapped up in being 10, if he had that face again, he'd be like, yes, right?
I know what you mean, yeah.
Like, if that was really the case, like that's what I think we would see. But actually, 14 is a lot more settled in his skin, I would say.
Yes.
14 is more sort of, he has that gravitas without the hyperactivity of 10 in some ways. His speech is a lot more clipped. Yeah, and also how you see a bridge from 13 into 14 is the way that 14 expresses unconditional love towards the companions.
Yeah.
Which is what Jodie did 13 before she regenerated. It was, I loved all of you. When her and Yazza sat on top of the TARDIS having ice cream. And that's carried on into 14. And it's, I loved her. I loved that man. And it's more outwards. It's more about caring about other people.
Yeah, you're totally right. I could definitely see that. Because the 10th Doctor was defined by the Time War, as was the 9th Doctor. Mm-hmm. And I think the Doctor's had a lot of time. And obviously, knowing what happened in the Day of the Doctor, there's a lot. I think once you take that out of the equation, that helps a lot with his character. But it's really interesting what you said about 10 being so sort of ego driven and really like being who he is.
Yes.
And not wanting to go and stuff, because I feel like it's kind of a reflection of where the show is at that time. It's almost a meta thing of like David Tennant soared Doctor Who into popularity. You know, I know Christopher Eccleston brought it back, and he, you know, if he hadn't been good, it wouldn't have got any further series. So he did an incredible job.
Yes.
But for many, David Tennant kind of defined Doctor Who for the modern audience.
He did for me.
Exactly. And so like him saying, I don't want to go, is obviously there's a part of the real David Tennant in there. There's a part of Russell in there who knew he was leaving, of them saying they don't want to go. And it sort of links to like, it links into the whole meta thing of like the show being so popular, I think, and sort of clinging on to that identity. And whereas now we've been through quite a number of modern Doctors.
Yes.
And they've all been successful in their own way. And like, I think now David Tennant can come back to the show and not be in that role of like, I am the defining Doctor for the modern audience, because there's more perspective now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it.
I'm so excited for Shooty, but I'm still gutted it's only 3 episodes.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Like, I feel like when you're watching the end of that episode and they're running around the TARDIS, it's like I'm very ready for another 13 episodes, even if it's just 13 of them two.
I know what you mean. Would have been good. But
been good.
I just count us lucky that we're getting what we're getting.
Right.
Yeah. I'm really excited for the next 2 because I feel like we don't know very much about them. Because if you think back to the trailer, having seen the Star Beast, 90% of what was in the trailer was from the Star Beast.
That's right, yes.
So, and we've seen that now. And now there's like, I feel like obviously we know the Toymaker's coming in the 3rd one. But sort of, that's about it. Like, the rest of it feels like a big blank canvas.
Yes.
So I'm really excited to see
Me too.
how that develops. And
the Wild Blue Yonder, which is the next one, that's the one that was mostly, if not all, studio bound, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So there's not a lot known about it up until tomorrow.
Yeah, I know. Time of recording, it's tomorrow.
Yeah.
So exciting.
Oh,
I kind of love this about doing podcasts, is that it's like a time capsule. It's like a frozen moment in time.
Yeah. Oh,
and people can go back and listen to this months in the future, but for us, tomorrow is Wild Blue Yonder. Like, yeah, so exciting.
Do you know what I'll actually say about the Star Beast for myself personally?
Yeah.
The Star Beast is the first time in years that I've wanted to watch an episode of Doctor Who again.
Oh my God, the same. I was exactly the same. Yeah. That, but also pre it airing, like in the build up to it.
Yes.
I was the most excited I've been about Doctor Who in years. It was like being back to being a teenager.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
As the years went by, like with the Moffat and Chibnall eras, like I was gradually getting less and less sort of like, it was more a case of like, oh, it's Doctor Who's on this evening. I've got to watch it because I'm a fan and I need to keep up with it.
I was the same.
But it wasn't. But then, you know, we got to last Saturday and it was like this. You can't describe it. It's just this spark of excitement inside you.
Yeah,
that like, oh,
it feels lovely to be back in that place again where Doctor Who feels like my life.
I know. Even Ben said that last weekend. He was like, that I seem happier.
I think Janine would say the same thing about me.
Yeah. It's crazy. Isn't it?
Our partners live it through us. That's the thing.
Yeah. I'm kind of sad that Ben is not at a place where he can join in and watch this at the moment, because
did he not watch that one with you?
He didn't know, because where we are in the podcast, we are just about to start series 4.
Right.
So I'm so conscious of spoilers that, you know, if you haven't seen series 4, it would really, really not work.
True. Would you consider watching series 4 and then fast forwarding to this one?
It has crossed my mind. I really don't know, to be honest.
I think there's scope for that. I've actually thought about that. I'm not talking as in from a point of like it all never happened, not like that.
No, but it would be. I think that the series 4 is the minimum you have to have seen in order to kind of get what's going on. But also at the same time, having that long distance in between has made it more exciting, I guess. If you watched it straight away after series 4, I don't know if it would have the same impact.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But yeah, like it's been so hard though, because Doctor Who's been everywhere, on Instagram and what have you. Like, Ben doesn't follow any Doctor Who accounts, but things still come up in his feed. And I've had to say to him, if you see David Tennant or Catherine Tate, you swipe up immediately. You do not watch it. Because, like, literally, I was in bed the other day and I opened up TikTok and the clip of David Tennant going, I had to wipe her mind or she will die or whatever, started playing, and I was like, oh my God, turn it off. And thankfully, Ben's deaf as a post, so he didn't hear it. But
right, I see what you mean.
Yeah, I'm almost having to do with Ben what Sylvia does with Donna.
That's
and
right.
Like hide. It's not there. You can't see him.
Skinny man.
Yeah.
I actually had a thought about this whole passage of time thing and that whole ending with Donna. And because 15 years ago, we just believed that something incredibly traumatic happened to her. That, it's quite a visceral scene when you watch it back. The way that she's like saying no repeatedly, and he's got to do it, and he looks sad, and he's out in the rain, and it's sad. It was such a sad way to end that series.
Yeah.
And even to the point where they don't even get a scene together in his farewell story.
Yeah.
And that was what we believed was the story by this point.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, right? This is a critique of sorts about the whole meta-crisis thing. So as we can see, it was as simple as letting the meta-crisis go, like waving a magic wand.
Yeah.
And then that was the risk taken away, right? And it reminds me a bit of the snowman, right?
Okay.
You know how the end of the snowman, you see that the snowman's, melted.
Yes.
And We're Walking in the Air is played really somberly on the piano. And you've got a generation of children who've watched that and experienced the utter sadness of nature and knowing that your snowman friend is no more because he's been melted by the sun.
Yeah.
Right? And then years later, they brought out the snow dog, which brought back that snowman. And all it needed was to put a hat and a nose on a snowman, and that snowman was brought back to life.
Okay.
And it's like, in that passage of time, that feeling of utter sadness and tragedy of knowing that kind of gets sort of altered by a very easy plot device. And that, for me, kind of diminishes a bit of emotional tension with that.
I know exactly what you mean, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do agree, yeah.
And it also shows a fault on the Doctor's side. Because what if Donna, in that bit where she's pleading for him not to, actually knew that she could do that? What if she just knew that she could just wave it out and then she'd be fine? It would just mean sacrificing that power that's making her feel amazing and know everything, like a conscious choice she'd need to take to save her life. And what if the Doctor just took a chance doing that caused her a lot of trauma in 15 years? That's just my perspective on that.
No, I know what you mean. I've heard people say that as well. That, potentially she knew how to work it out. Personally, I don't know how I feel about that, because I think part of it obviously comes down to having Rose and sort of sharing the meta-crisis between two people.
That's true.
And I don't know. I feel like part of the drama of that scene in Journey's End is that you can see her working it out at the same time as the Doctor. And she realizes she's going to have a memory wipe. She realizes at the same time as him.
Yes.
So I think I think that works better for me. But yeah, it was a very, I'm quite confused by the ending of the Star Beast and the whole letting it go thing. Like, I don't really know what it was supposed to mean, especially all those lines about, something a male presenting Time Lord could never understand. It felt a little bit, I don't know, like it was almost a bit performative in terms of like the gender stuff.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like Russell as a man writing and trying to sort of be feminist in a way that sort of, for me, it didn't really land.
No, that's a fair point. And I also think as well that it's removed a level of tension, because we saw that it didn't kill her. I actually wasn't expecting to see Dr. Donna back. That was actually a lovely surprise.
Yeah, that was incredible.
That was great to see her.
She's clearly, Catherine Tate's clearly gone back and watched Journey's End to like recreate it, because
with
she
that
did it
funny
very
way
well.
of talking, and And I wasn't expecting that. So that was actually a very lovely surprise. But, you know, in the trailer, when we saw 14 saying, like, I might not be able to save you this time.
Yeah.
That gave me the impression from just the trailer that, okay, this might be something that's like a ticking time bomb or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like yeah. I thought that might be what we would get. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, who knows, though? At time of recording, we still have those other 2 specials.
Anything could happen.
Yeah, there could be more to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I actually also really love that scene, the callback to the end of time with the glass separating them.
Oh my God, yeah.
That in itself echoes that point that I was talking about where 14 is a lot more outward whilst 10 is more ego-driven. You see the stark contrast. You see the way how 10 was all like, this is my reward, it's not fair, and I could do so much more.
Yeah.
Like smashing stuff. And then when it's Donna, it's more about why does it have to come to this? Like, why do you die like this? Why you? Not why me. It's why this to you. Yeah. That's the contrast.
Yeah, that is you've hit the nail on the head there. I think that is the difference between 10 and 14.
That's right.
And that was so kind of clever to bring in that device of the glass separating them again. I think that was really good. That also that scene reminds me of Doomsday, when the Doctor tries to send Rose to be with Jackie and that in the parallel world, and she keeps coming back, and she's like, no, I've made my choice, I'm going to be here with you. And he basically gets to the point where he's like, I haven't got time to argue about this, like let's just get on with it. Yes. And it was the same where Donna came back into that control room and he said, no, you can't get involved, you can't be here, go. And then in the end he was like, oh fine, press all those switches, put them down. It reminded me of that moment.
Yes.
Yeah, Russell's very good at those kind of callbacks.
That's right, and just showing how time can heal and how people can change and the world can change in that time.
Yeah.
This is why I like 14, because to me, I was actually watching the End of Time Part 2 yesterday, and, Tennant as 10, he's caffeinated, he's just like running everywhere, and that's what we loved about him. He was so energetic and used his words like that, and dragged things out and was Mockney and all that.
Yeah.
Whilst 14 is a lot more self-assured, he's a lot, and it's like looking at things from where I am now in my life. 10 was a very good person to look up to when you're a teenager, because in a way he was a bit like a teenager. Big hair, Converse trainers, it's just kind of what you see as a teenager. But it's funny watching these episodes now and realizing he's not much older than I am now, right? Which is a strange thing to comprehend when you're watching it. But then I'm watching 14 now thinking, right, well, this is who I want to be when I'm in my 50s. Like this is, I want to have that level of self-assuredness. I want to be so unattached to what we deem, external, and just have that real sense of secureness that he shows in that scene with Shirley, just talking about, I don't know who I am now. And, that's it. That's just kind of, for me, that's my own personal journey with watching it.
No, it makes a lot of sense. It's like 14 is like 10 grown up in a way.
Yeah, 14 is 10 grown up. It's almost like a snapshot, like you said, into what would have happened if David Tennant had stayed on for 15 years.
I also wanted to talk about the references we got to Wilf.
Yes.
It's obviously, especially given the real world situation that we lost Bernard Cribbins, takes on an even more emotional aspect.
Absolutely.
From everything we've heard, it seems that we are going to get one last scene with him, which is beautiful. But even the references in this about the Doctor saying, "Oh, I loved that man," and everything, and the fact that Unit is providing for him, like that was really nice. That was a lovely little touch. I
mean, because they were very conscious that he was very old, wasn't in good health.
Yeah,
they knew that they were on borrowed time. The sad thing is,
like, he died recently. Ish, but I've spoken about this on the podcast. Actually, I've spoken about it on a recording, but it hasn't gone out yet. But I tell a story about when I was very fortunate to get to work with Bernard Cribbins and play the piano with him. And that was only a few years ago, and he didn't seem old when I met him. Then he was full of life even then. And like that was not that long ago. It was only a few years ago. Yeah. And it just seems so sad that he's gone now.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, such a loss.
And it does express a lot of catharsis to that scene where they are speaking about him and he is saying, I love that man. And
yeah,
because he's speaking from the audience's perspective at that point.
Exactly. Yeah.
Even though within the story, he's still alive. And like you say, Unit's providing for him. And it's actually quite interesting because I remember reading that, at the end of The Power of the Doctor, where you've got the companion support group.
Yeah.
I believe that someone wrote that the way that this episode conveys what happens to companions and how they're actually taken care of will actually supersede the idea of them going to a support group with each other.
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense.
The idea, it's quite an interesting idea, and it actually goes back to what we're talking about, how the Doctor, being this all-powerful alien, can be quite irresponsible with humans.
Yeah, 100%.
Has caused a lot of damage. And that was one of Russell's points in his stories, like we saw it with Sarah Jane Smith, that he leaves their life and, he leaves the damage behind.
Yeah.
To the point where they need to create a support group to get back into everyday life. And it actually feels like Russell's amending that slightly now.
Yeah.
Wilfred is being looked after by Unit. Donna's been able to have that closure. We've got other companions returning, and even Tales of the TARDIS. We get these old companions meeting the Doctor and actually being able to speak to him and have that level of closure.
Yeah, it's a lovely touch, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's lovely for Wilf. I think that's lovely for Wilf, that he's sitting cozy and, drinking tea. And hopefully that will be the scene that we get to see him. Yeah,
I do hope so. I look forward to that. We also got that scene where the Doctor asks the Meep about its pronouns.
Yes.
I like the fact that it's brought up and that Rose is sort of involved in that conversation. Mm-hmm. Side note, from a grammar nerd point of view, when the Meep says that its pronoun is the definite article, the grammar nerd in me is cringing and going, but the is not a pronoun. Because it doesn't work as a pronoun. But anyway, one thing I really liked about that scene is the way that David Tennant delivered the line. Mm-hmm. So his line was, he says something like, yes, sorry, are you a he or a she or a they? Mm-hmm. And he doesn't just say it as if those are the three options. He delivers it as if there's more to come. He says, are you a he or a she or a they? As if there's a multitude of options, which I think is brilliant, because David Tennant is such an ally to the community, and to I think one of his children is non-binary.
Yes.
So it's really lovely that we get to see that, especially from the Doctor, our hero character, sort of role modeling that.
Sylvia scene. It's having your characters who are actually working this out for themselves too, so that then everybody gets the opportunity to be on the same page with that. Yeah. Just where we're all learning and all, that's what I feel like, having your characters who you identify, being able to do that helps.
Yeah.
And I also thought as well that the Doctor, being that he's a character who understands the evolution of humans, like you're saying, there's possible more options, that gives the idea that perhaps he's seen a time where it even expands more.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and that much as Doctor Who is a time travel show, and the Doctor, theoretically, John Pertwee's Doctor could have been to 2023 and seen the world as it is today. But at the end of the day, you have to accept that Doctor Who is made in the real world, and it reflects the real world as it evolves.
That's it.
And I think it should.
That's right.
It's like Russell was saying about the whole Davros thing. He was saying, the world moves on and Doctor Who has to move on.
That's right. It's the same as anything that we've seen in the classic series related to anything that predates anything and how it's progressed now. Stephen Moffat touched on that a bit on the political scale with bringing the first Doctor back and conveying those nuances in his personality that were quite aligned with William Hartnell. Things that we kind of knew. And then having 12 kind of be the one to be this isn't me now. The world has moved on and it needs to.
Yeah, yeah.
Same sort of thing. And it does move on and it does change. And that's the nature of art. It does that.
Yeah, yeah. Art reflects the world in some way.
That's right. In fact, here we go. This is what I was going to speak about. So it's a bit like in Russell's first iteration as showrunner, the main thing that he spoke about was the gay agenda, what it was called on the forums at the time.
I remember that, yeah.
And it was those little cheeky little comments or talking about gay marriage, which wasn't legalized at the time. And now the world has moved on with that.
Yeah. Also, you've reminded me as well of, like, you remember in Aliens of London, after Jackie slaps the Doctor, and
Yes.
Rose says, "Oh, you're so gay."
Uh-huh.
And that got a lot of criticism.
Yeah.
Because of the homophobic aspect of it.
Yep.
And Russell's response to that was, that's how people talk, and he wanted to reflect that. I think you could have a similar conversation about the Star Beast and the boys who dead name Rose.
Yes.
Which is like, it's obviously a very traumatic and horrible thing.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it is the lived reality of trans people.
Right.
So there's a line there. You know, I'm not sure. I don't think we're the right people to say
No.
what the right way of doing it is. But I think there's definitely more than one side to it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
There's nuance. Yeah. Getting back to the story, I do feel like the Doctor was being quite careless in front of Donna in terms of, like, mentioning he had two hearts, and handing her the sonic screwdriver and all sorts. It's almost like part of him wanted her to remember. You know, like, he was so like, oh, she can't see me, you know, she can't remember. But then once the actual story got underway and there was an alien in her shed and everything, it's almost like that took a back seat to, you know, the story, which I think sums up the Doctor in a way as well. Like, he will get sidetracked by the plot.
No, that's true. And you're right, because, you know, he's so adamant that if she remembers me, it's not sees me, it's remembers me, then she will die. And even in the end of time, Donna's getting memories from seeing the Master, who she'd never met. She's getting memories from seeing, like, something unusual happening.
That doesn't quite gel, actually, does it? Because in that, like, she was starting to see, you know, sci-fi things happening, and she says it's like the sort of thing that happened before, and then she has that explosion of her head.
Yeah, that's right.
Whereas this one, you know, she sees the Meep, she doesn't get anything like that. So
Bloody Martian.
Yeah. Oh, what's that line? Sylvia says it doesn't exist, and she goes, "What do you mean it doesn't exist? It's hanging off my left leg."
Meep. I do know what you mean with that.
I think it's a bit of a retcon just for the sake of the story we're telling now, but
that's right. And that's the whole idea that, you know, the intention was to bring them back together and to have her get her memories back and for her to be in a good state that they're going to go on another adventure together.
Yeah. I was not really a fan of the sonic shield things.
Yeah.
Because that's a physical barrier that he's created there out of nothing, out of a device that is supposed to, you know, create sound waves.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand how that works. It's,
you know, glamorizing the sonic screwdriver is more than what it actually is, which is actually it's a plot device.
People have always called it a magic wand. And I feel like this is the most magical thing it's ever done for me.
That and creating a computer screen for him to look at.
That as well, yeah. But, like, listeners to this podcast will know that Ben is never a fan of the sonic screwdriver.
Oh, is he not?
And I think if he saw this particular usage, it would really flip his lid.
Well, the thing is, during the Moffat era, the sonic screwdriver became the main driving force to save the day. It's your get out of jail free card. It's the, you know, if I wave it like this and, you know, do that, and then that's us out of trouble.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've been rewatching the old confidentials because they're now on iPlayer, and Russell said you want evil plans to get in the way of the Doctor and stuff, but you don't want a door to get in the Doctor's way. So it's like just to speed things up, which totally makes sense for me as to what the sonic screwdriver's for. But to create these sort of glass walls is, I feel, a step too far, but
yeah.
Oh well. Is what it is.
Is what it is.
I have to just mention the comical scene where they go past the sleeping man, and you see them through the doorway. Russell said he described this story as a bit like a Pixar movie.
Yes.
And I totally get that from that scene where the music just cuts out and the Meep sort of creeps past and just goes meep, meep as it walks past.
Yes.
It's like if you watched a trailer for a Pixar movie, you could totally see something like that being in it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just joyous and very funny.
Yeah. And it's heartwarming too. That's what I think the Pixar element was as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Bringing the whole family back together.
Yeah. Do you want to know my standout moment from this story?
What was your standout moment?
It was a moment when my jaw just hit the floor and stayed there, which was when she says goodbye to Rose and her family. And then she says, if the doctor can't do whatever, blah, blah, blah. And she runs off. And then Sylvia just says, she called him doctor. I got chills of like, it's the way that they drip fed the sort of her starting to remember was so good.
For me, it was the unveiling of the new TARDIS.
Ah, okay. So you're a fan of the new TARDIS?
Yes, and it's grown on me. The thing was, when it was the first reveal, I didn't have any idea of what it was going to look like. That, to me, was kept a really good surprise.
Yeah.
Although, on rewatch, I realised when he's got the door slightly open, you can see.
You can see, yeah.
I must have somehow not seen it at that point, which is good for me.
Oh, lucky you, yeah.
I know. I know that when it was the original Russell T Davies era, there was the sort of choral effect and nature, and there's always been a more sort of ombre lighting in there, and I can understand how it might look a bit more clinical with the white, but for me it was the music. It was so like John Williams,
great musical track, yeah,
absolutely, and the way that he's running around and so excited, and
I do love his and Donna's reaction to it, him running around, and then that moment where she's like, it's gorgeous. It's so good. Personally, I prefer it when the TARDIS is a bit more clunky. It's a very old machine now. And I liked the grunginess of the 9 and 10 TARDIS. But having said that, I can see that this new one is, in a way, it's kind of like a modernised version of the classic TARDIS. Yeah. You know, which what they were going for in the 60s was this very sort of clean, clinical, futuristic thing. So that's kind of what we've got now, which does make sense. I just think it maybe needs a few more homely touches.
And I wonder if that's what we're going to get when Ncuti's in there.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Because it's new, it's clean, it's just been materialised like that. And I wonder if with it being Ncuti, it's a little bit like how 11 had that kind of new TARDIS, and then when 12 came in, it became more personalised and looked a bit more lived in. Yeah, 12's TARDIS is amazing. Absolutely.
I can just see Ncuti's Doctor, like, you know, those LEDs on all across the wall. Like, I can see him having a disco, like, in there. Like,
absolutely.
It's going to be amazing.
Someone said they saw a jukebox.
Oh, really?
Yeah, someone said they saw a jukebox in there, so could be.
Yeah, that's exciting. The moment when Donna regained her memories, and then the first thing she said to the Doctor was, I gave away all my money. It had the energy of, you had the reception without me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, oh my God, it was like coming back to Journey's End as well, with the whole, like, the heartbreaking thing of when she has the same knowledge as the Doctor.
Yes.
And she asks, how long have I got to live? And they both say 55 seconds.
Yes.
That was heartbreaking. And then immediately she turns it into best 55 seconds of my life.
Yeah.
It's a roller coaster. I think Russell's writing is an emotional roller coaster.
Absolutely.
And that's what hooks you into it. The ending with the coffee cup.
Yes.
Like, it does amuse me that the TARDIS reacts so strongly to coffee when, you know, in the Christmas Invasion it had tea spilt in it.
Yes.
And that had quite a different effect.
Mm-hmm.
It does seem like the TARDIS is overreacting a little bit to the coffee.
Well, that's it. But that's the hilarious thing. And Phil Collinson said it. That's so Russell to show us this, like, new amazing TARDIS set, and then he's going to blow it up in the same scene. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very slapstick.
It's very Dr. Donna.
It is. Yeah, they've always been slapstick.
That's
like
right.
Partners in crime sort of missing each other. That's the other thing I was going to say, like her, the way they continued this thread of Donna always missing the alien stuff that's going on.
Yes.
The way she turned around and restacked her parcels while the spaceship was crashing reminded me so much of Partners in Crime, the way she and the Doctor kept missing each other, like because
That's
of just
right.
turning at the crucial moment and stuff like that.
Well, she'd have had to have done that over the last 15 years.
Exactly. But it's like, what force in the universe is making that happen? Like, is it destiny? Like,
as in, like, bringing her together back with the Doctor, or like
that,
making
but
her
also,
not see things.
yeah, making her not see things. Because, like, the fact that she did turn around at that exact moment, like, do you know what I mean?
I wonder if the Doctor programmed a bit of perception filter on her.
Oh, that would make a lot of sense, actually.
You know, like with the keys in
The
Sound of Drums, like the whole, like, I'm here, but you don't want to see it.
Yeah, it's like maybe out the corner of her eye she saw the spaceship.
But she doesn't care.
And her subconscious was like, right, I don't care. Yeah.
Don't care. So it's just another story. It's just something that Donna Noble missed. He probably ensured that, because a lot of stuff's happened in the last 15 years that happened quite in her face, I would say.
Yes.
Trying to think of any examples, like, you know, Cybermen coming out of St. Paul's Cathedral or all that kind of stuff. How she would have missed that, you know?
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, I did put out on Instagram and Twitter to our listeners to find out what they thought about this episode. Thank you to everyone who got back to me. I had Anto said to me, absolutely adored Miriam as Beep the Meep. Iconically cute and menacing. Jack says, I could imagine Ben's fury at the convenient magic of the bulletproof glass, which, I totally agree with that. He would hate that. William says, as a non-binary person, I thought the whole binary, non-binary line was so cringy. Part of me loves it as a huge middle finger to people who think the show's gone woke, but it felt very clumsy. So that's an interesting perspective on that. I definitely see where you're coming from with that. I do think it is a bit clunky, possibly, and confusing, basically. I think if you're going to do something like that, you need to be quite clear about what you're going for. And I'm not sure it really came across, but yeah. Amy said it was amazing, like David and Catherine never left. Minotaur64 says, absolutely brilliant. Good writing and characterization is back, baby. Elliot says, my favourite part was the scene with the Doctor and Donna inside the ship. It managed to both break my heart and also make me laugh so much. It was just brilliant, and the acting was really amazing. Space Penguin Tim says it was like sitting down with a big mug of hot chocolate. Which is so accurate as well.
Yes.
Just on the trans representation, I had Jay contact me to say, rule number 1 of trans characters, don't reveal the dead name. Why? There was no reason for that. Like, I get it. They wanted to show her being trans and feeling lonely because of that, but they could have done that literally any other way. Do not reveal the dead name. The conversations about the Meep's pronouns felt kind of like a joke, like, oh, haha, pronouns, woke people. I just think it didn't really fit the context. We get it. You have a trans character. That's great. As someone who's trans myself, I thought they were just showing her off, like, wow, we are so progressive. So that was from Jay. So thank you for sharing that. You know, I think I've seen a lot of comments online from people who felt that it maybe wasn't handled the best. But then on the other side of the coin, I've got Danny, who's also trans, has messaged in to say, I'm having so much gender euphoria right now. The trans representation is amazing. So different views from different people. I don't think you're ever going to please everyone.
No.
And my view is that I think Russell is doing his very best.
Absolutely.
And I think that's to be commended.
Yeah.
It's the same with the Davros thing, which has caused so much controversy. Like, there may not be a right or wrong way to go about this, but he has made a choice for the right reasons, and he's got people talking about it.
That's it. It's a multi-dimensional conversation.
So, overall thoughts on the Star Beast then? Did you?
I absolutely loved it.
You absolutely loved it. So did I. If you were to give it a rating out of 5, what do you think you'd give it?
Like 4.99.
Oh, okay. What's the 0.01 that's stopping it from being a 5?
Because nothing's perfect.
Oh, okay.
It's just my own belief system in life.
No, you're right. Nothing is perfect. Yeah.
Nothing is perfect.
Yeah.
And, I have my own critiques on it. But in terms of just what I experienced and loved about it and how excited it got me and what I got to experience, I'm going to say 4.99.
Yeah, no, that's a really respectable score. I think for me, I'll give it a solid 4.5.
4.5.
Which is very good. Yeah, just the occasional thing, like I said, towards the end of the episode that confused me a bit and I feel like didn't quite land.
Sure.
But yeah, it was brilliant. And I can't wait to see the rest of the specials and
like
into Shooty's series. It is. Yeah. It's just like being that age again.
It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And us sitting there having this conversation, we used to talk for hours.
Absolutely.
About this stuff. I just remembered did you want to share your anecdote about Jacqueline King?
Yes. Mm-hmm. I didn't get around to doing that, did I?
No.
So a few years ago, Jacqueline King, back when I was living in England, I now live in Scotland, Jacqueline King used to be a regular customer in an arts and crafts shop that I worked in at the time. She's an absolutely lovely lady, very different from Sylvia. And I knew her, I knew who she was. I kind of would talk to her, but I actually spoke to her more about Comic Potential, which is a show that you and I have worked on as well. And she was always happy to talk about it, always, because she was the original Carla Pepper Bloom.
She was, yeah.
Always happy to talk about it and give me anecdotes about it.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the news came out that Russell T Davies was taking the show back. And I saw her and I said, "Oh, it's so good. Russell's coming back." She said nothing.
She clammed up.
She clammed up. And at the time, because this wasn't common knowledge at the time, I thought, oh no, I've crossed the line. She must think I'm one of those people, like a fan,
Yeah. Well, you are.
I am. But I can see that perhaps there was a bit more to it at that point.
Yeah. So you think maybe she was in discussions about coming back?
Her agents were probably told.
Yeah. I mean, it's all very, very sort of NDA with Doctor Who, isn't it?
It is. Just had my baby laughing.
Ah.
Oh. This is what life's brought me.
Yeah. So happy.
Thank you.
I think we're kind of coming towards the end then. I will just say for listeners, usually at the end of our episodes, we do a Patreon shout out to any new patrons, but things are a bit strange at the moment with episodes being recorded out of order and stuff. So just rest assured that if you have recently joined Patreon, you will be getting your shout out very soon, but it'll be on an episode with me and Ben, like a regular episode. So look out for that. We're so grateful for your support. You know that. But Nick, thank you so much for joining me to talk about the Star Beast. It's been incredible.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honour.
Is there anything you'd like to plug, or I know you're not on any social media now? No,
so I'm not even seeing people's responses to things, which has helped me a lot because that helps things to be my own response to things. Nothing to plug as such, just a message for everyone to just enjoy the show. And, for those who are enjoying the nostalgia of the show and having this little chapter back, just enjoy it because it's lovely. I'm very excited for Shooty to take over. I think he's going to be absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And happy birthday, Doctor Who, because this was the birthday episode, really.
The big one, yeah.
The big 60, the diamond.
The big 60, yeah.
That's all I've really got to say on that.
Oh, what a lovely message.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I do think, silly as it sounds, I think sometimes Doctor Who fans could do with reminding to enjoy the show.
That's right. Just enjoy the show. That's what
spend a lot of time complaining, but you're supposed, if it's something you're a fan of, let it bring you joy.
Let it bring you joy.
Yeah. So thank you, Nick. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, do you know what we say at the end of this podcast?
What do we say?
We say stay fantastic. You ready?
Yep.
Stay fantastic. Brilliant.
That's amazing.